The Hyundai Elantra has been steadily making a value name for itself over the last 5 years. So when the company was faced with the daunting task of giving us a redesign after that stunning fluidic sculpture 5th gen was shown back in 2010, they took more of a conservative, more refined approach, similar to the new Sonata. This week I'm testing the 2017 Hyundai Elantra. Let's take a look and see if this compact car is still worthy of your shopping list. Now, when the first Elantra was shown back in 1990, it was responsible for giving Hyundai the image that it has today. I mean, this is a vehicle that's been in their lineup for 26 years, and it's been a huge seller for the brand. And over the years, Hyundai has definitely given this model more refinement, more technology, more style, and this 2017 model represents its best foot forward yet again. Now, you can see the design of the Elantra takes a lot of design cues from the big brother Genesis. In fact, the entire car, when I first looked at this all-new model, basically looks like it's been spending a lot of time with the Genesis sedan. You can see the front end of this car sports the new fluidic sculpture 2.0 that the company showed on the Genesis 2 years ago and the new Sonata. The grille is basically the biggest change you're going to notice from that very stylish 2011 to 2016 model. The grille has a very German Audi S design. It's a very in-your-face, distinctive grille that looks very premium. Now, a couple of new features are available on the new Elantra. Most models will have vertical stacked LED daytime running lights. You can get that as part of a technology package when you guys go even for the base model. The Eco and the limited trims, like my tester, come standard with them. Now, the limited trim with the ultimate package is the only way you're going to get a xenon headlight with a dynamic bending light function, so they're swiveling headlights. If you guys remember, the old Elantra didn't even offer a feature like that, so this is kind of going in more with the technology theme that a lot of its competitors are going to. Now, when you look at the entire silhouette, or at least shape of the Elantra, Hyundai says this new design is very slippery. It's now rated at a 0.27 coefficient of drag. In terms of the size, this is still in the compact class, so you're looking at the same 106.3-inch wheelbase as last year's model. However, Hyundai did stretch the overall length by about 0.8 inches, and they made the vehicle wider by a full inch. So that's what's giving this car a more baby Genesis, more luxury look in the overall stance. Now, my limited tester comes standard with these 17-inch alloy wheels. They are the bigger option. The Eco and the SE will only come with 15-inch wheels, which do look a lot smaller. Surprisingly, even though these wheels are relatively class competitive, they look a little on the small side, just because, at least for me, just because the body lines of this design language makes the wheels look a little bit small. Now, looking at the back, you see a lot of resemblance to the Genesis again, which looks kind of like the old Elantra. I mean, this is probably the angle where you're going to have a tough time telling the old one from the new one. LED tail lights do come standard on my limited trim, and you can see there is no shiny exhaust tips sticking out of the bumper. This is a compact commuter car, and Hyundai didn't want to mess with this car, trying to make it seem sportier than it is. Now, overall, I think the design language is certainly less dynamic and aggressive as the previous model, but it also has a more classy, elegant, premium look, and I actually personally like that. But enough about the exterior. Let's take a look at the inside and see some of the changes that Hyundai has made for 2017. Now, when you're first approaching the new Elantra, most models will come with the Hyundai Intelligent Access key system. My limited tester comes standard with. You can see this is the new brown key fob that Hyundai introduced a couple of years ago. Now, all you have to do is keep the key in your pocket or your purse. To lock the car, you just tap the button. That locks the car for you. To unlock it, unfortunately, there's no actual touchpad here. You have to touch the button again, and that unlocks the car for you. Now, looking at the interior of the new Elantra, this is probably the biggest improvement that Hyundai has made versus the previous generation. It definitely has a more upscale, high-quality, tech-laden environment that the old one kind of definitely lacked. This one, to me, feels like it'll age much better. The leather bucket seats on my tester are very comfortable, relatively supportive. The leather itself feels okay. I like the fact that there's a 10-way power driver's seat. This is an area where compact cars are becoming more mid-size. Now, one thing that really surprised me are the memory seats on my Ultimate tester. This is probably the only compact car that has a 2-person memory seat function. Typically, that's reserved for mid-size cars. I like that Hyundai has included it in this new Elantra. Now, stepping inside, the car is a little bit higher. The roof is a tad higher from the old one, so it makes it a little bit easier to get in and out. And shutting the door, the thunk is a little bit more solid. I don't really like the Hyundai welcome tone. You can turn that off if you guys don't want to hear that. And at a glance, when you're first stepping inside this interior, it certainly looks pretty nice. This is the top trim. This is the biggest head unit you can get. And as I said before, push button start is standard on my Limited. So all you have to do is put your foot on the brake and then touch the button here to fire up the engine. And then, of course, you're hearing the one engine choice for the SE and Limited. It's a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine. This is part of their new NU engine family that we've seen on the previous generation Elantra. It's a little bigger than the 1.8. I'll talk about the engine in a second. There is a turbocharged 1.4 liter motor in the new Eco trim. Now, coming back to the interior here, you can see a lot of the materials in here are certainly upgraded versus the old one. The dashboard has a very nice grading to it. It's soft touch. The materials in here, the fit and finish is pretty good. I like the layout here of the center stack. This is much more preferred by me versus the new Civic. You have 2 knobs here for tuning and volume, well-labeled buttons. Your climate control is down here, knobs again. So Hyundai has gone with a more simplistic, more traditional design, which is what appeals to me. Now, looking at the door panel here, unfortunately, this is hard touch plastic. I kind of wish Hyundai had given us soft touch as well, like the new Civic, like the Mazda 3. This right here is not leather stitched, but it's slightly padded. They should have honestly taken the leather here and stitched it on the armrest. This is where you're going to be resting your elbows. The window is automatic one touch for the driver side only. Some competitors give you for the passenger side as well, so that's a missed opportunity from Hyundai. But the steering wheel, I do like the new steering wheel design. I did not like the previous model with its weird looking shapes and spokes. This is more of a traditional look. I like the steering wheel controls. I like the fact that the volume control is a little toggle here. Same with the the function to change the stereo presets. And then of course you have your trip computer functions right here. This is the up-level instrument cluster. It gives you a 3.5-inch screen in the middle. You can see you can cycle this and change the displays. This one has the full driver assistance tech. It shows you your individual tire pressures. So again, this is taking a lot of elements from the Sonata and the Genesis. So that's what's leading to this more upmarket feel. Now looking at the screen here, this is Hyundai's 8-inch touchscreen LCD display. It's a very nice looking display. It's pretty much what you've seen on the current crop of Hyundai products. When you go to the nav function there, you can see the nav system is pretty standard what you see with most Hyundais. The graphics are okay. I'm okay with the nav system. It's pretty much in line with its competitors. The system itself is a touchscreen, and it tries to almost work like a tablet. It's not really there yet. Honestly, most of the times you're probably just going to be using the hard buttons to get around here, but the system itself has a pretty fast touch response. This is one of the better ones in the business. Now, when you put the vehicle in reverse, you do have a backup camera that has trajectory and distance markers. No parking sensors though, but the mirrors do have a reverse gear automatic tilt down function, so that's again a nice feature to have that was previously reserved for higher end cars. Now, looking at the rest of the center stack here, your heated seat controls are right here. You have a drive mode selector. You can cycle between eco, sport, and normal setting. I actually prefer the vehicle more in its normal setting. I'll go into the driving dynamics in a second. Now, one thing I want to talk about briefly is the fact that this car has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It's the first Hyundai product that I'm seeing with that function. So again, I have my phone plugged in right here. There's some pretty nice storage right here. You can pretty much just put your phone in there, close this, and then hide everything. Now, when you're looking at this screen, going back to the home page here, you can see Apple CarPlay is right there. Just tap Apple CarPlay. You can also, by the way, change the menus function. So if you go to menus here, you can adjust these icons similar to what your iPhone does. You can drag and drop. If you guys want to put different icons here, for example, if I want to put music there, I can just drag and drop the music icon there. So it's a nice updated head unit. This is their latest Hyundai telematics system. Now, going to Apple CarPlay really quickly, you can see There's your traditional Apple CarPlay. You have all your usual icons here. You have Pandora, Spotify. It works very well. The integration is what a lot of Generation Y buyers definitely want. I mean, this is basically where everybody really cares about. We care more about this technology stuff than the overall driving dynamics, unfortunately. But you can see here, looking at the rest of the center stack, this is the only transmission choice, a 6-speed automatic with the 2-liter. If you guys go for the Eco model, it has a 7-speed dual clutch, but I'm going to focus primarily on this because this is the standard transmission. It does have a manual shift mode, no paddles on the wheel, and then, like I said, it has the 3 driving modes here. Now, looking at the rest of the center console here, this lid does adjust forward and back. It's leather padded, could be a little bit softer. You have more storage there, another USB port right there. And then looking at the glove compartment, it is damped. It's a pretty good size. It's not lined with felt, but it's pretty class competitive. Now, My Limited also has a tech package that rolls in a sunroof and the navigation. It's a standard size sunroof. There's no pano roof. Most of the cars in this class don't offer one. But overall, the interior is definitely the strongest new aspect of the new Elantra, and it makes me feel like I'm sitting in the Sonata or even the Genesis at times from its up-level market of tech and luxury features. Now, the rear seat of the Elantra is also an area where Hyundai has done a really good job with giving you a decent amount of space. Now, one thing that Hyundai is quick to point out, there's a lot of interior room in this car, enough to qualify it as a mid-size car compared with the EPA. That's a higher classification than the Civic, than the Corolla. But you can see, stepping inside the Elantra, the rear seat is definitely easier to get in and out of. That sloping roof that was in the old one has been fixed, so there's a little bit more headroom. The egress and ingress is a little bit better. There are no vents back here, as you can see, in just one map pocket. And shutting the door, you have the same materials, hard touch plastic from the front. It is slightly padded down there with some leather on this part of the door panel. And you can see here, Hyundai, if you remember the 5th gen model, the old one, was one of the first to offer heated rear seats. You'll still find the heated rear seats on this new model. No one-touch power windows, but there is a nice armrest back here with some cup holders. The seats themselves do 60-40 split, but overall the back seat with this near flat floor is not bad. It's pretty class competitive, and your taller friends will pretty much be okay back here. Now, another class exclusive feature for the Elantra is the hands-free smart trunk access. Now, this is taken from the Genesis and the Sonata, so all you have to do, if you have, imagine you have your hands full of a bunch of crap, you walk up to the car, and then it'll sense that the key is back here, and it'll immediately start beeping. After about 3 beeps, the trunk automatically opens, and it opens just enough so you can kind of just wedge your hand in here and open up the trunk. But you can see when you look inside that trunk, it's a pretty big trunk. This is measuring about 14.4 cubic feet of space. Now, that is slightly smaller than last year's model. I'm not entirely sure why, but you can see the opening is quite large. Unfortunately, you have hinges that crush your cargo, but luckily when you look underneath the floor here, Hyundai still gives you a temporary spare tire. So underneath the hood of the new 2017 Elantra, this is kind of where Hyundai took more of a back seat. Honestly, I feel like they saved all their money underneath the hood. Now, the motor in here is certainly not bad. It's a pretty conventional 2-liter double overhead cam, 16 valve, variable valve timing, 4-cylinder. Now, if you guys remember, this is part of the new NU engine family, and it's a little bit bigger than last year's model. The last year had a 1.8. This has a 2-liter. Now, you think with a bigger engine it has more power, and it certainly does. It has 2 more horsepower versus the old one. 147 horsepower in this one, and 2 more pound-feet of torque, 132 pound-feet of torque. Now, that is class competitive numbers. You can hear this motor does not have direct injection. GDI is the badge that Hyundai will give it if it does have that feature. Now, fuel economy is pretty class competitive as well. This limited model with this 6-speed automatic is rated at 28 in the city, 37 on the highway. The SE is rated a little bit better from its smaller wheels and tires, which are more aerodynamic. Now, if you guys want more technology under the hood, you can go for the new Eco model that will be available, or that is available now actually. It's a 1.4-liter direct injection turbocharged motor, so it's a smaller engine. That makes 128 horsepower, which is less, but it makes 156 pound-feet of torque, which is more. And that one will get you that 40 mpg mark if you guys go for the Eco model paired with that 7-speed dual clutch. Now, all Elantras, of course, are front-wheel drive. This vehicle weighs roughly around 2,700 pounds. It's a tad lighter than last year's model. Let's get it out on the road and see how it all performs, shall we? Now, Hyundai has definitely sent me a lot of Elantras over the last couple of years, so I was pretty familiar with the old model, the 5th gen model, and I have to say the old one was rather underwhelming to drive, even though it did look nice. So my expectations are a little bit low for this new one. I'm hoping that Hyundai will be able to surprise me with this redesigned 6th gen model. So let's take a look and see if it is much better versus the old one. Now, first setting off in the new Elantra, I have to say this one feels kind of like the old one, to be honest. Now, the old one had this rather cheap feeling when you went over bumps. The structure wasn't particularly strong, it wasn't very stiff, to be honest, and every time you went over a bump, the entire body shivered, it quivered, it just felt inexpensive and very toy-like. And this new one, Hyundai says the structure of this all-new platform is about 30% stiffer in terms of its torsional rigidity, and I really feel that in the first 5-10 seconds of driving. This new one has a much more buttoned-down, solid feel. Now, it doesn't feel German by any stretch of the imagination, but Hyundai has done a good job with giving this car a much more premium, sophisticated feel the moment you get behind the wheel. Now, the Elantra was never the sporty offering in this segment, and this new one, even with its sport mode, its new platform, still is not the sportier offering in the segment. The steering, while is decent, is pretty numb, devoid of feel. When you put into its sport mode here, it just adds a lot of heft. And you can see here, going around this turn, the Elantra doesn't have much power. My foot is to the floor here, and you can see the car does relatively well. This is pretty much, I expect, how a Corolla would do if I was pushing it around these turns here. But I took the Mazda 3 around this same road, and I have to say it was a lot better. Floored here, you can see this 2-liter engine doesn't have much power, and you're pretty much not going to be looking to carve your favorite back road when you go with the Elantra. But when you drive the car at a much more relaxed pace, because let's be honest here, most people who buy a compact car aren't enthusiasts, the car feels very nice. The ride quality is on the firmer side. Now, one thing that the Elantra still has is a semi-independent torsion beam rear suspension. It has been revised this year. It still has McPherson struts in the front. And you do feel it crash a little bit more over bumps. Some of its competitors, like the new Civic, the Mazda 3, have a fully independent suspension. Hyundai goes with more of the Corolla route with the semi-independent twist beam. But in terms of the noise levels in here, you really just hear that buzzy engine. This reminds me a lot of compact cars from yesteryear, whereas the new Civic, the Mazda 3, the Civic has the turbo motor, which has lots of mid-range torque, and the Mazda has its bigger 2.5-liter 4. But pushing it through these corners hard, you really feel the understeer. These eco tires definitely don't like this, but I mean, the car's not bad. It is small, it's a compact car, so it's very tossable still. And the seats are pretty comfortable. The steering, when it's in sport mode, has too much artificial heft to me. That's why I left it in its normal setting where it lightens up a little bit. Unfortunately, that does make the transmission kind of want to go into its higher gears just to save a little bit of gas. Now, when you get it all going, the Elantra will probably get to 60 in around the 8.5 to 9 second range. That makes it about 1.5 to 2 seconds slower than its competitors like the Civic and the Mazda 3. And I'm going to keep coming back to those two cars because those two, in my mind, are the top compact cars in the segment. But Hyundai has done a pretty good job with being more of a middle of the road. Now, sometimes you don't want something that's the flashiest, that's the most expensive, and the Hyundai certainly fits that bill if you guys are looking for that. Now, one thing I much prefer over the new Civic in this car is the 6-speed automatic. The shifts are pretty intuitive, pretty smooth. This is a newer generation of 6-speed auto, and it definitely gets the job done. It's just a lot slower than the Civic because it doesn't have all that mid-range torque. Now, one thing that the new Elantra does have is the company's smart cruise control system. It will basically just follow the car in front of you, and it has Hyundai's lane keeping assist. This is the system that they just introduced on the new Genesis, where this car will actually actively steer you in the lane. The steering itself is just like the Civics, where it's active, where it'll basically, if you go over the lane, you can see it starts moving itself. It'll follow the car in front of you down to a full stop, which is nice. I mean, this is the kind of features that you pretty much expected in a luxury car just a few years ago, and Hyundai is giving it to you in the Ultimate package, of course, when you guys go for the fully loaded trim levels of the Elantra. You can see here, it actually is able to keep the wheel turned even in this slight curve that we're going through here, which is pretty nice. This car is semi-autonomous driving. It also has full automatic emergency braking in case you guys forget to hit the brakes if you're not paying attention. So again, I'm pretty impressed with the technology in here. This is a car that has mid-size to luxury car levels of tech. Really, the only thing it's going to remind you it's an economy compact is the engine. It's a rather unrefined, unpleasant lump that makes a lot of noise and doesn't have much torque when you guys put your foot down. Any day now. Just kidding, guys. I mean, this is pretty much what you expect with most compact cars. The Elantra is not going to win any drag races by any means. You're not going to buy this car to go win races in. But putting it back into its normal mode here and kind of just cruising along, let's talk about a couple of numbers here. The fuel economy numbers is probably what you're curious about. The old Elantra actually was part of an overstated EPA number that Hyundai did. This new one is probably more in line with what it's going to get. I mean, honestly, in my week's worth of testing, I've been averaging about 25 miles per gallon in mostly city, with me constantly putting my foot into it. On the highway, I did get up to about 37, 38 miles per gallon. So, I mean, this thing will get close to 40 if you guys are very easy on the throttle. Unfortunately, it has very little power. You're going to constantly be dipping into the throttle like this. Come on, let's pass these people, just to get it going. So again, if you want the most power, you need to go for the new Civic Turbo, or the Mazda 3 with a 2.5 liter engine, or even the Volkswagen Golf and Jetta with its 1.8 liter turbo. Now, talking about the price, the Elantra has always been the value leader of this segment. And the new one certainly still follows that path. It still starts at around 17.1 for the base SE with a manual transmission, a 6-speed manual. That actually makes it about $1,500 less than a base Civic LX, about the same price as a Corolla with a stick, and the same price as a Forte or even a Jetta or a Focus, to be honest. But the Elantra does come with a lot of features as not standard if you guys go for that base model. If you go for the base SE with a manual, it doesn't come with cruise control, it doesn't come with Bluetooth, it doesn't come with a backup camera. A lot of its competitors give you that. Now, if you want those features, you have to add an $800 preferred premium package. That's really not that much money. That makes it about this a little bit closer to a Civic LX's price. Still about $800 cheaper, going with the value theme that Hyundai tends to offer. Now, my limited tester, of course, is the top of the line trim. It starts at around $23,000 for the limited, but you do get leather seating, you get LED daytime running lights, LED taillights, heated seats, a power driver's seat, the 7-inch display audio with Bluetooth streaming, Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. I mean, it's a really good deal. It's about $1,500 cheaper than a Civic EXL. That's what it competes with in terms of the trim levels and the equipment. Now, there's a $2,500 tech package that my tester adds. It adds the sunroof, navigation, the premium Infinity audio system. That pushes it more in line with a Civic EXL with Navi. And then, of course, mine has an Ultimate package on top of that for another $2,000 that gives you the smart cruise control, the lane keeping assist, the memory seats. I mean, that pushes the Elantra to a new price territory. My tester is stickered for about $27,500, which is Sonata mid-size money. But again, not everyone's going to be going for this top-of-the-line trim. Just keep in mind that the more basic trims of the Elantra offer most of the features that you want at a much better price point. So again, the Elantra certainly is not the sportiest offering. It is not the fastest offering, but it does have one of the most tech features in the class. And it still gives you that value quotient, just as long as you guys stay away from the limited with the Ultimate package. And unless you guys think it's worth paying this much money for the car to get all of these features of a mid-size car in the smaller, more efficient package of a compact. Anyways, I hope you guys have enjoyed my overview of this fully redesigned 2017 Hyundai Elantra. If you're in the market for a compact car and you want something with the most tech, with the best warranty, a very comfortable cruiser, this car may be a good choice for you. However, if you're an enthusiast and you want the sportiest offering, make sure you take a look at the Civic and the Mazda 3 and the Golf. Those ones will have much more acceleration, a smoother engine, and similar levels of tech as this car, but you're going to be paying a little bit more for those vehicles just to get their more exciting engine. Anyways, if you guys are also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, make sure you follow me on Instagram, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, keep subscribed to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.
Would you like me to read your messages or compose a new one?
Read.
Peace said. Muahahaha. Would you like to reply?